Okay, so welcome to episode 5 of the Essentials podcast. Today we've got a very special guest with us. We've got Matt from Nebula, who is their developer, and we've also got the rest of the Essentials team. So we've got Orange, Aaron, Atlas, Casey, and Fitzy as well, and obviously myself. So we've got quite a few points to get through today. We ran a Q&A kind of channel in Essentials over the last 24 hours, and we gathered some questions. And hopefully we can run through them today and get an insight into Matt's work as well, which will be good. So should we start from the bottom then? So okay,
hold on.
Oh no.
First, introduce Matt.
Oh, sorry.
Properly,
Sorry.
please.
Sorry. I'm really sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. So as I said, we've got Matt with us today. Hello, Matt.
Hey guys. Super excited to be here. If you guys don't know me, I'm the dev of Nebula Bots, I'm super excited to be on this podcast and talk a little bit about myself and how I got started on the project and maybe on programming in general. So
that sounds good. Thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure having you here, and I wish we could have you more often here and replace Fitzy with you. So that'll be fun. Anyway.
I heard it called, right?
Sorry, I can't hear you. I can't hear you past your, I don't know what, Walmart mic or some shit, whatever you're using. So.
I'll check your name straight up, man.
I actually can't even hear him. All right, fine. I'll just assume he's complimenting me. So we got some questions. I'm just going to run through them and then we'll sort of see how it goes. Here's a good question. Sort of open with thoughts on Python programming language compared to Java, JavaScript, C#, Go. I don't know what that is. I've got zero coding background for the purpose of botting. Matt, you'll probably be the most qualified person here to answer that question.
So I see this conversation come up a lot where people just argue about the programming language you're going to be using, and ultimately it doesn't really matter until you get down into fine tuning, optimizing your code. So I think Python is a great it's a great language. It's pretty modular. You can use it pretty much everywhere on the web and outside the web as well. So I think it's a great language. Personally, I don't use it myself just because I don't like certain aspects about it, like the syntax. But not everyone shares that opinion. So
does speed is speed a factor in choosing a programming language?
Yes and no. I think on a lot of platforms, it's more about stability and error handling. But obviously with, you guys are pretty familiar with Shopify, fast mode and stuff like that. When it comes down to milliseconds, it does play a part. But I think, I would put more emphasis on error handling than, shaving off milliseconds from your code.
Sure, that makes sense. So would that relate to sort of task numbers and stuff, and how a software could sort of handle that under a significant amount of stress and stuff?
Yeah. And specifically in the realm of botting, just, what to do when you get an improper status code back from a request, or, what happens when something you're parsing out of the body is not there. What do you do from there? Sure. And then stuff like that is I think that's, you should put more emphasis on that than spending 10 weeks deciding what programming language you want to, use because you think it's a millisecond faster than one that you're already familiar with,
Yeah, that makes sense. So what's Nebula written in then?
It started out in JavaScript. We ported it over to TypeScript not too long ago. That took a little bit, but definitely worth it if you haven't if you're a JavaScript developer and you haven't checked out TypeScript yet, you should definitely do it.
Why do you choose TypeScript over JavaScript?
It's just it's a lot more type safe, so you get the added benefit of knowing exactly what your functions are going to be inputting and outputting, as well as if you're using ES6 syntax, you can modularize stuff even more, and I don't know, it's just more type safe and looks a lot cleaner than JavaScript.
Okay, fair enough. Fitzy, you use Python when you do your little bits, right?
No, I'm a Node.js guy.
Oh,
I
very nice.
Java from just AP Computer Science.
Mhm.
Americans will.
Mhm.
And then Java just got really annoying, so I decided to learn Node.js in like 6 hours. Just binge watch a video, and now
Nice. It's that easy, right? 6 hours of video and you're a dev. That's all you got to do, boys. That's all you got to do.
I mean, yeah, it's super similar to Java, so it wasn't too hard.
That's good. That's good. Cool. Okay, a bit more of a general questions. The next one. So, the best practice to utilize monitors in groups. So, this question, I guess, is not necessarily tailored towards the essentials, as we've only got a couple of monitors. But it's more so. But as in, to be fair, most people in essentials will likely be in other groups as well, or even bot discords nowadays. Most of them have monitors anyway, right? So, how do you best utilize your monitors? I'll probably leave that question to Atlas, Casey, and Fitzy, and the EU boys as well for the EU monitors, because that's quite important on custom sites. One of you guys want to take it away?
Well, I mean, honestly, for me, I use the monitors more to see what is restocking, like especially foot sites in the US. So a lot of times you'll see, like, I like to watch the Wrath ones or the Cyber one. A lot of times you'll see whatever, like today, the tie-dye started restocking. So that's a pretty good way to know to start running. You know, you should have tasks set up, or you should at the very least have general tasks set up, and you could just change the SKU and start running.
Yeah, that makes sense. So if you've already got your bot pretty much set up for like a different product, if it's just as simple as just changing the SKU and then hitting play, and then you'll just go.
Are you talking about the bot checkout monitor or the like bot checkout webhooks?
I think
or
this
like
is just like
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, when you say monitors in general, you go by that and you can go Shopify filter.
Yeah.
But that's a lot harder to catch, right?
Yeah. Do you tend to find just using checkout monitors are better than the actual monitors because of fake stock and stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's something that happened to me a lot in the beginning. It's like fake stock.
Mainly.
Yeah, and for Supreme a bit, right? Oh no, Supreme I guess just goes
No.
out as soon as. So it doesn't pick up sometimes, right? Because it goes out of stock straight away.
For Supreme mainly, you should just have your tasks running like 24/7 from when they drop to the next drop, just for restocks. And then, well, now they have captcha bypasses clips, so you have to pay a bit more attention.
Yeah.
But for you should just be running 24/7. It's a lot easier. Monitors don't always pick up.
Yeah.
So that's what I recommend.
Nice. Cool.
As long as you have proxies and you're not getting banned, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sweet. And then for the EU side, I mean, SlamJam's probably the most notorious one for being like a disgusting site to run on. Basically, what they do is they often bait you out with like a single product that they load. They'll load up just one size of that product, and they have ADN as well. And they just basically, if you check out that product, then they just ban your address basically. So you just got to be so careful with that if you're from the EU. I don't know if Aaron or Orange have got any experience with that as well, with SJS, if they've ever bought it.
No, that's fine.
I botted it once,
Yeah.
and it was actually fine. I botted it for Cinders, and it was surprisingly easy. But ever since then, I've not had masses of luck on it.
Yeah, I feel like they've been
that was just
restocking
a
less,
large
though, right?
stock release. What was that? Sorry.
They've just been. I feel like they've been restocking less than they used to do. SJS.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It was only the Cinders I ever caught anything properly on.
Right. I see.
everything
And
else
do
was-
they tend to ship, by the way, SJS? I've never actually had anything ship.
I had every pair shipped to one
Wow.
address,
That's
but that
awesome.
was that one release. I can't speak for other ones.
Yeah, of course. Okay, fair enough. Okay, raffle botting. Is it worth the effort or the cost? Alright, this is quite a good one because there is a lot of sort of controversy around this because raffle bots are pretty accessible, and in terms of cost compared to like a true AIO bot, you're looking at sort of maybe like sometimes at even like 5-10% of the cost of like Cybersoul or Wrath or other bots as well, which are, sort of have a huge aftermarket value. Is it worth it? Yes, but also you need to be so cautious about the way that you run the sites, and you need to be cautious about which sites you're planning to run. Getting the bot alone is just not enough for raffle botting, and I feel like with raffle botting, because they are so accessible and cheap, you can sometimes just be led to believe that okay, all I need to do is just get the raffle bot, hit hit play, and it'll enter entries for me. It's just not that simple. You've got the proxies, you've got the resi data often, which will just be more efficient than using proxies because you don't want to be using the same IPs twice. You've got the accounts to buy, you've got the Gmails, you've got the Gmail email forwarding. It's just a huge pain to bot raffles, to be honest. And there's a few sites which is good for and effective for, like Naked, and what other site? Foot Patrol as well. It got eaten up by Kick's raffle bot this week. But you just have to, when you go into raffle botting, it's not as simple as plug and play. It's, even though like AIOs also aren't that simple, I think with raffle bots it's even more sort of exaggerated. And I think especially for beginners, because this podcast obviously going public, so we all have a beginner audience presence as well. But for beginners who are looking to start out in botting and sort of seeing raffle bots as a really appealing option, just be aware of all the things that you also need to sort of tie into that setup in order to really have an effective raffle bot setup, because it can just get very expensive.
I think that's a really good point. You know what else? If you break it down, Nike bots are raffle bots.
Yeah,
and you better have them put on really, really tight, because the bot might run you $200, but between accounts, proxies, stress taking years off your life, it's really expensive. Like you, if you're a gambling addict, man, it's awesome, but there's some really highs and really lows when you're running it.
It's all luck too.
Yeah, I think from like a dev standpoint, it's definitely harder on devs to kind of find ways to like circumvent the filtering that happens. Like on Nike, for example, like it's so like impossible to find. Not impossible, I shouldn't say, but it's like really hard to find ways to like show success on that, which you know most AIO bots like feed off of. So it's just like, I don't know, even from like a dev standpoint, it's like not worth coding a raffle bot because it's like so hard to have success. I don't know, it's just weird.
Yeah, exactly.
Too many factors, right? Too many factors that determine
way too many factors.
And if you also add into the fact that they have, days and days to filter all these entries, it's not like a checkout flow on first come first serve where they have seconds. It's literally days. So, it's pretty easy to filter out bots, I suppose. I mean, we see it in our own community with the Kodai raffles. I mean, I've personally never heard of anyone hitting with a bot entry. So I mean, I'm assuming raffle bots aren't something that you're planning to add anytime soon to Nebula, Matt.
I was working on one, which I probably shouldn't mention. But,
okay.
Just leave it vague. Just a random site.
Just broke his NDA.
No, it's not like that, but it's just hard, man. You have to gather so much data. You have to gather as much data as you would with an AIO bot, and then you might not show any success on that raffle because they can just change it by the next time it rolls around anyway. So
exactly.
It's like, I don't know. It's really strange.
Yeah, it seems like quite a stressful thing to try to maintain. I feel like doing a raffle bot just wouldn't be a one-person job. I think there's just too many sites to conquer, right? So.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, cool. Aaron mentioned EU monitors. So. I wasn't just trying to rush through it. I'm just reading through I wasn't trying to rush through it, but I genuinely just looked at the next question and thought that's a really interesting one and sort of just skipped ahead. But yeah, like EU monitors. This is actually a good question because I wanted to ask about this because about maybe like a year and a half, 2 years. No, it can't be 2 years ago. Maybe like a year and a half ago. I think I was in Express Notify for a bit. And that group was solid, man. That group was sick. Shout out to Connor and Nick who run that because they actually do a sick job on it. But their monitors at the time, because Off-White used to restock pretty regularly throughout the week on EU. So if you just watch the monitors for like a couple days, the likelihood is you'll probably pick up a pair on the Off-White. It was pretty straightforward. I mean, if I could do it, I've got mentors. If I could do it, anyone can do it because I'm slow as anything. So. I mean, is that still the case now, Aaron? Are EU monitors as effective as they were, say, a year ago?
I mean, I think not compared to that one little stage of Off-White, but that was just something else.
Yeah.
But I mean, for sure, I'm in Express as well, and they do a good job.
Yeah.
But I mean, the mesh monitors and stuff are really useful. Yeah. If you've got a bot that can task, it's like better than anything else because you see it come up and immediately you can have it going to checking out. Before you know, but that is only really relevant, I'd suggest, on sites like Mesh, where you can quit task, or other sites like that. Otherwise, it's fairly. I mean, an end as well. I mean, you can manual end if they've got a good enough monitor.
But you got Shrimp now as well, haven't you, which is taking stock quite a lot now.
But
it's been interesting.
They're limited to tasks.
Yeah, that's true. I think it is interesting in this last year or so since I I think I left Express just because I just didn't have the time to use it. But since then, I feel like so many bots have just popped up now, which do just take stock on these smaller sites, which before like no one really bothered botting. Like when was the first end bot? Like the first public end bot it can't have come out more than like a year ago. I can't think of one which came out. Like I think the others were all private. But that just shows how effective manual actually was back in the day. I think it's funny that you mentioned, because when you say monitors, people often think like monitors you can just sort of click manual ATC and then just check out, right? But you're saying it in sort of conjunction with using a bot, which just further implies how important having a bot is today. Like the scene right now is so difficult to get pairs without a bot. Even if you've got the quickest monitors, you still need a bot to sort of help that checkout flow. But yeah, I mean the combination of is it mbot when the backend's open? If you've got mbot and if you've got some good DCs and you quick task, it's just insane. It's just you just get so many pairs and it's just crazy. Current state of things, I don't think mbot's been hugely effective on Mesh recently because they've not been opening the backend. But yeah, I mean that's the risk, isn't it, with just having like a backend bot. But yeah, I mean, Orange, you're still cooking up like the brick flips, right, and stuff.
Yeah, I use mbot a lot for that.
Yeah, have they been opening
on the monitors?
Right, I see.
Yeah, on the monitor, I feel like on all the small stock sites, there's a lot of smaller bots now, as you said, which will just focus on one small site, and then the monitors won't help you at all if you're manualing it.
Sure.
Agreed,
the only thing I get on monitors now, manual, is just big stock sites and bricks. That's it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say, for example, like monitors on like Snipes and Soulbots and stuff are so pointless now.
Yeah.
Because they're just, I mean, people are just running, expecting what's going to drop.
Yeah.
And then it's out of stock before you can even load the page.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I monitors for that are just irrelevant.
Yeah, I completely agree. It'll be interesting to see as sort of more of these EU bots do get more and more developed over time. Because you still need to remember that a lot of these bots are still in their infancy. So you've got, I keep mentioning Shrimp, but it's just because it is just quite a good bot. You've got Shrimp, which is doing well, but obviously still quite a young bot. It's not been out for too long. Phasma's probably one of the oldest of the bunch, but it's been through a lot with changes in devs and stuff. So that's obviously slowed down progress a bit as well. You've got like Calyx, you've got Earthside. There's just so many bots which are still, they all sort of popped up around the same time. So I just think over time it's just gonna be really interesting to see how these bots do adapt and how the sites adapt, because EU sites are just so notorious for being terrible at handling load, right? I mean, how many times have you tried to access a site and it's just been error decline, error? It's like, I can't remember what it's called. It's the BSTN one when it puts you in like a queue and then like you have to wait and it's just ridiculous. But yeah. Basically, summary: EU sites bad. Don't bother.
That goes back to what Matt was saying though, where he would much rather have the bot handle all the errors than be the fastest bot, right?
That's true.
Yep.
Yeah. Interesting.
If we can, sorry to interrupt you. If we can go back real quick to the Shopify question in regards to the monitor, only because I wanted to ask Matt what he sees more on his bots and back end. Like, are people just running nonstop for the restocks, or do you see them more where, shoes load up and then they start their quick tasks?
Yeah, it depends. I'd say Nebula is really in like a state where I haven't really figured out. Like the most efficient way to run restocks while like checkpoint is up and like bot protection is up, but I think like 99% of my users are running tasks like all the time on fast mode. which naturally switch over to restock mode when it detects the items out of stock. But yeah, it's like, for certain sites, they have restock patterns that my users know, so they can like boot up tasks an hour before that or so. But I think the majority of my users are running tasks like nonstop on data center proxies.
Nice. That's quite reassuring to say that. Sorry, carry on.
I can attest to that because I'm probably a test right now.
Oh man!
And I have no. What's that?
Are you running Nebula now?
Yeah, probably.
You don't even know. Jeez,
I just leave it open on my server. I close the server, and if it hits, really.
They're murdering. I mean, I think he's being modest. Matt's being modest. Everyone, the public service announcement. They're just murdering restocks on just in case you live under a rock. They're murdering restocks.
It goes crazy.
Yeah. On that note, I actually just found like a super big bypass that I won't get into.
Okay, we're gonna delete that.
Edit that whole section out.
I mean, if you want, you can send the code in here. Like it's safe with.
Yeah.
It's safe with us, man. Don't you worry.
No, but yeah, there's this super big bypass that I stumbled on, like literally on accident, for fast mode restocks. So it's going to get even better, which is awesome.
Awesome. Are you going to save that for like a big drop, or is it something that you think you could just push out anytime?
I think I can just roll it out. Yeah, because it's pretty inconspicuous. I don't think it'll be detected. I hope not, at least. I could be wrong, but I think I'm just going to roll it out.
Yeah. Let's hope it holds up then, because the last couple of bypasses that sort of got dropped in the scene got clipped the day. So let's hope this one stays a bit longer. Cool. I don't want to rush anyone. So is everyone done with that section of topic now?
I'm good.
All right, cool. Shoe Palace bots being made public. Okay, so I feel like Shoe Palace bots are just such a meme right now. Like I feel like everyone's saying like, okay, so you've got Dark.io, which just isn't going public, and we've got Shoe Palace, which it's not public yet, is it? Shoe Palace? I don't remember.
No, it's not public on the 10th.
Yeah, it's on its way, I think.
Okay, fine. Yeah. Well, that'll be the first one. Shoe Palace. Okay, Shoe Palace looks great in theory, right? Because they apparently they ship everything and it's all fine and dandy. Proxies apparently are a pain. Yeah, proxies are just such a pain. I mean, the combination of finding proxies which work on Shoe Palace and also proxies which work on Shopify strong protection is just absolutely disgusting. I think it sort of summarizes 2020 as a whole year because it's just it's horrible. It's horrible. I don't know much about Shoe Palace, to be honest. Maybe Fitzy could elaborate when he comes back. His mic seems to be muted. But because I know he runs Dark. I don't know if you... Oh, here he is. Hey, Fitzy. Please elaborate.
So yeah, I heard you talking about proxies. Proxies are mad hard to find on Shoe Palace now. Like, I'm either running Origin proxies, which I just got, or I'm running Butter DCs.
What DCs? Sorry, you cut out a bit.
Butter proxies, DCs.
Butter proxies?
Yeah, it's mad new.
Smooth.
They're like the
only... You say smooth?
They're the only DCs that have been working on Shoe Palace. But like they just clip subnets so much. Proxies are a pain. And then if you don't have Palace bot or Dark or some other private bot that I don't know about, you're probably not gonna hit. So overall, like if you don't have one of these big private bots that has a ton of success, it's just like not even worth thinking about, really.
Yeah, especially with the investment that goes in with proxies, which might just get clipped anyway.
Yeah, and like you burn Resi data so quick.
I can imagine.
It eats data.
Yeah.
Launcher, I guess is the only really public one right now because Phantom, they clipped it. I think someone said that it was back, but Phantom ran for like a day and then it got clipped again. But that launcher general chat is just what proxies work, what proxies this is over and over and over.
Yeah, I guess it's just so inconsistent as well. Like there might be one provider that works one time and then they get clipped, then another provider. I feel like it's gonna be switching left, right, and centre all the time.
Like
Well, the site's horrible too.
Yeah, it's a terrible site. I was using Space Eclipse for the first few restocks of Smoke Grays and Zions. And then on these last 2 or 3, like, it was just completely clipped, and like you're out for that drop or that restock.
Yeah.
And then you gotta find a new provider that works, switch everything over, buy more data.
Yeah.
You're gonna burn through the data in 1 or 2 drops. It's overall really annoying, but when you hit, it's a good time.
I can imagine it's a very satisfying site to hit, considering all the hurdles in between actually starting and getting to the end point.
Yeah.
What's the carting system like? So I remember you were mentioning like Shoe Palace carts and distribution and stuff. How does that all work?
So for those who don't know, on Shoe Palace, when there's a bunch of traffic on the site, just a hype release, kind of like Shopify queue, they'll put up a timer on the cart, and it only allows you to cart every 2 minutes. And there's a finite number of carts that are like out at a time. And you just pretty much have to spam ATC and hope that you get it, hope that you get it in cart. And once you get it in cart, you're just kind of brute forcing your way through checkout. And that's pretty much the life cycle of Shoe Palace.
Nice. Have you looked at it, Matt, at all, by any chance?
Have I looked into it?
Yeah. Shoe Palace.
Honestly, not as much as I should have, but yeah, I mean, I pretty much know the life cycle, as Fitzy just said. I don't know. Yeah, I haven't really. It's just oversaturated at this point, and I mean, a lot of people could say that about Shopify too, which it is, but yeah, I don't know. I just haven't. I wanted to support other sites before I looked into it, so
yeah. Okay, that's fair enough. It's probably better to prioritize other sites which are actually a bit more feasible to hit than Shoe Palace, I suppose. So yeah.
No. The one saving grace about Shoe Palace is that they just play Nike into giving them mad stock on every release. So
yeah, that's true.
The one good thing about it.
Cool. Future of botting with Shopify. Okay, I'll give you my perspective on it, because Shopify's been like a very very close site type to my heart for some reason. I don't know why. I do love the nice Shopify drop, and I feel like the feeling when you actually bot and hit Shopify, knowing that there's like 8,000 other people also running this one site which has like 5 stock. It's just so satisfying when you hit that shoe. It's so satisfying. And that satisfaction really never goes. I haven't done it in a while. I do run DSML, but DSML obviously it has like literally has like sub 10 stock on 90% of drops, so it's pretty much impossible. But yeah, I mean, Matt can probably chat a little bit about that, seeing as that's one of his modules.
Sure. Yeah. What is the future of it? I mean, that's such a big question. I think. I don't know, like even right now it's going through some major changes that we've seen like on the initial like release period. Within the first I want to say like minute and a half, they're enforcing like a super strong bot protection that I admittedly haven't found yet.
Sure.
And I haven't solved yet, but I think for the future, I mean, if they're going to be this closely intertwined with the sneaker community, it's going to be pretty rough.
Yeah.
Especially with like the CTO like interacting with us pretty much every day or once a week.
Yeah,
it's really hard to like hide stuff and like kind of go like under the shadows, or in the shadows when it comes to Shopify. So
I agree. I mean, he's fully integrated in the scene now, isn't he? I mean, he's following all the right people. He seems to have all the right. He's got Cybersoul. You don't know what else he's got.
That's the thing. We don't know.
Exactly. So as soon as someone fixes their Shopify modules or whatever, he's just gonna just break it again. So it's quite frustrating because he sort of has access to everyone else's tools, but no one has access to his tools. He does have the advantage in that sense, but I guess the benefit from our perspective is that there's just so many of us on this scene and so many different softwares, some of which are private, some of which are public. So he won't have access to all of them. So hopefully some of them will carry on working. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I feel like before they were trying to do a lot of things which didn't really hinder the user experience too much. So they added like bot protection, then they added proxy protection. Like capture's always been there. That's not too much of a big deal. So those three things are sort of like they're like, okay, we could like users won't be too affected by these. They're not too frustrating. They then realised that they had to add extra stuff to make it more frustrating for bots because those things just weren't enough. So they added checkpoint. And then now they've added literal questions that you need to go and find an answer to get through to checkout. So I feel like they're just making it. I think they started with the intention of trying to stop bots without really hindering the user experience. Whereas now I think they're just sort of accepting that there's no way to really stop it,
Yeah, totally. I was like, oh man, this whole like Q&A crap that like came out is like so annoying because I always like try to come up with like the most elegant solution to whatever I do, and it's like I was trying to I don't know if you guys saw like the dead stock questions where they embedded it in images, but I was trying to like OCR the images and then basically do some machine learning to like solve the question automatically.
Sounds very complicated.
Yeah, and I was just like, this is like they're gonna scrap this next week because that's how Shopify is. They're like so volatile, and it's just like I don't know. It's just so annoying. I think the future. I don't know. Yeah, the future of like Shopify is just it's so up in the air. I don't know. They could do whatever.
Yeah, literally agreed.
In regards to that, Matt, at some point, like I know I was, and I can't imagine as a dev you weren't getting really frustrated when people were just egging on Shopify and posting and flexing in their forums.
Oh my gosh.
And tagging Jam before he even like had an inkling of a clue of what was really going on.
Yeah. That totally irked me because I mean, not many people know this, but Nebula has been around since like 2018, early 2018. And that was like the days where you could hit like 12 Yeezys off of Yeezy Supply and get them all shipped, like no problem. But it's just changed so much because people obviously are like cloud chasing and want that engagement, I guess. I don't know. It's so weird.
They're needy.
Yeah.
Okay, Matt, if you were to describe Shopify botting right now as a developer in one word, what would it be?
Let's see.
Tell you really thinking about this one. Bloody hell, mate. It's not that deep. Come on, man.
Yeah. Say maybe like headache because it's just like going back and forth.
Yeah. I feel
on like so many different things. It's just
I
don't know. Yeah, they don't use like a standard bot protection like a Kanmai or Perimeter X, whatever. It's just all over the place, and they're always changing it, so it's weird.
I guess the unpredictability is what makes it so hard. Like they don't change things literally until the drop, do they? So so say it's like a pair of Yeezys dropping on a Saturday, like you'll only find out about the change on the first drop, which tends to be DSML, which sucks for me, but you know how it is. But cool. All right.
And it's like that, and then like it's spread across so many different sites, and then it could be changed by the time the next drop rolls around. So it's I don't know. Yeah, it's really weird.
Even between sites, there's just so much variety at this point. Yeah, it's so important to have a per site setup. Okay, so forecast on bot prices post COVID-19, how to properly prepare. So interestingly, I feel like the COVID-19 situation has just led a lot of people to just be at home, giving people a lot more time, and I think people are just getting a lot more invested in botting. Obviously, you got a lot of people who are out of school, out of college, out of university, and it's given them a bit of spare time to really sort of get into botting. I've noticed, certainly within Essentials, I feel like the frequency of tickets and questions being asked and stuff is probably increased since before COVID started to sort of when it was at its thickest. I mean, I think honestly, I think the bot market is just going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and I think eventually there will be a dip, but one thing's really interesting, which has happened in the past month or two, has been the overtaking of other bots, overtaking of bots from Cybersol in terms of resale value. So Cybersol always used to hold that sort of pinnacle sort of ideology, in a sense, where it was always the most expensive bot, always cyber. You had Hawk, which took over for a little bit, but that was so overinflated and it lasted for like a couple months. Cyber's always been that sort of top dog. I think it's interesting that other bots are now overtaking it in terms of resale value, and I think that sort of shows the community that there's a bit more faith in more bots now rather than Cyber. I think other bots now are holding their value very, very well. Cyber's always been a bot to do amazingly well in terms of investment. So I always come back to this example. But before Cyber released its last update, there was a period of about 4 months, I think, where it just wasn't hitting much at all. It was doing like okay on certain sites, but Shopify wasn't really working. Mesh wasn't really working. Footlocker EU, Foot sites weren't doing too great either. But it still maintained its value, especially lifetime. I think the lifetime went down from the start of that period to before the update released, maybe down 10%, and then it shot up like 40% after the update came out. So having that sort of security in holding a bot for that long is something that a lot of bots, I think, have been envying for a while. I think it's good now that you've got other bots which are sort of gradually rising in value as well, and I think it does just show people being more comfortable in buying expensive bots and sort of holding them and not worrying about people sort of undercutting too much as before. Orange does a lot of reselling in bots and stuff. I don't know if you've noticed too much recently about how COVID's impacted things.
I think the price of everything's increased a fair amount. Some bots a lot more than others. I feel like a lot of EU bots have taken off a lot. I remember not too long ago you could pick up a Flare Lifetime for €600 and even lower at points.
Yeah.
And now you can sell them for 1,200 easily.
Wow.
In the space of a few months.
Yeah.
So just how fast prices have increased on some bots is pretty crazy.
And for our US guys, that's also, I mean, I don't feel like Flare has particularly seen huge improvements since it was at €600. Would that be fair to say?
I only ever ran it on Courier, and it did well on that site.
Sure.
And I know they have 3.0 coming soon.
Right.
But that's all I know about it in terms of its actual performance.
Sure. Okay. But as in, what I'm trying to say is, even though these bots aren't hitting, finding crazy bypasses or performing sort of insanely well compared to their peers, they are still increasing at a rate which is probably unjustifiable.
I think with demand at the moment is just crazy.
Yeah, it must be. There's so many people at home with spare time and stuff, 100%.
Yeah.
And people being furloughed as well, obviously, with work and stuff. So it's good for people to sort of find other avenues to make money.
Yeah. And like what you were saying earlier, like as a high school kid, I have so much more time to bot now. Like I almost never botted Shopify beforehand because I'm on a laptop in school. Like I can't solve like that while I'm in English class or whatever.
Sure.
But now that I'm home all the time, I'm at my normal desktop. Like I can bot every single release, like as much as I want, pretty much.
Yeah.
All this added time, and I'm not in school anymore, so it's just a lot easier.
Yeah, and there's a huge cohort of people who also fit that high school sort of age range as well. So I think just multiply Fitzy's situation by thousands, and that probably explains why the bot market is the way it is. Post COVID-19 will be interesting. I think then we're sort of entering the realm of how long is COVID going to last and all that, and I just can't be asked. So let's just not. But I think if this keeps going up, I feel like this period of time with COVID and people having more time to spend botting and people learning more about the bot market, seeing the prices go up, having more faith in the bot market, I think it's a very positive thing for the bot market as a whole. I think following this, I think we'll see a lot more stability in the bot market, and I think we'll see a lot of these bots maintaining sort of fairly reasonable prices than we've sort of seen before. Like now, it's basically impossible to get a bot which is actually good under 1K, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, there's really nothing.
Yeah, just NSB, I guess, but
that's a whole nother podcast, though, right? I mean, you can add to that like how much of it is people actually investing and having faith in investing in bots, because everything's going up. You can pretty much close your eyes and point at a bot and buy it if it's low enough, and it's going to go up.
I agree.
Which you know what's funny is I like watching stuff like that, but then I see dev posts. Like I just saw F3, and he's like, we have a lot less users and a lot of people holding keys, so he expects a lot more people to run. And as a dev, I can't imagine, like, that's got to be really frustrating, right? If everyone's holding your bot as quote unquote their paycheck, but not actually running the bot, so then the bot's not getting success.
Yeah.
Then that's gotta kill that, right? I mean, Matt, speak a lot more on that, right? Before I go on a tangent.
If you guys want me to, I can. But it's it's like a whole like secondary market that like you have people using the bots to buy shoes and clothing to resell, but you also have this secondary market that are, that appeared out of nowhere, called like, just bot flipping in general. Like that is just, they're buying bot keys and hoarding them, and expecting, anticipating the price to skyrocket like it has with Wrath and many others recently. But yeah, it is frustrating. Like from a dev standpoint, I don't see a lot of success from, or any success from people holding those keys, because no one's running for releases. So it's like, I don't know. Yeah, you almost have to have like this initial insane success to make it worth it, it's weird.
Yeah, I agree. You need a balance. I guess even these people who are holding all these keys, they do need people. They need other people who have keys of the bot to be running, because they need success for that bot to go up in value. So it's sort of like it's sort of like a weird symbiotic relationship they've got going on with all the key flippers and then the actual people who are running bots. It's also, I feel like it's a bit of a shame as well sometimes, because you see, I think some of the bots which are cheaper, I think a lot of the experienced users just tend to ignore, and that leaves a lot of sort of beginner users using those bots, which then limits its success. Like some bots which could be very, very good, but they just don't have the right user base for them. Not to say that beginners shouldn't get bots and stuff, because to be honest, like that's the only way to learn. You can read as many guides as you want, but until you start botting that site, you will not learn how to bot a site. You just got to try, and you will fail, and like you'll fail countless drops, countless weeks, potentially countless months. I failed. I didn't hit a shoe on with a bot for maybe like 3 months or something, but then after that, like gradually it just starts picking up, and you get more confident and you get more comfortable, and then things start sort of just piecing together. But yeah, I mean, we do need people just running more, I think, and that's one of the things we see in Balco a lot is like we have a lot of keys, we have a set number of, not a lot of keys, we have say a set number of keys, but then only like a proportion of those people will be running that bot on that day or something. But I can imagine that's pretty much relatable to every software that's out there, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a universal problem with every bot, people have lives too. I can't blame people for not running for one release. I get that, and it's totally fine, but it's just like when you're sitting on a key, it doesn't really do you any good if you're looking to flip it, because you're holding that, that position that somebody could have that key and use it for, success, show that success, and then the bot's price will skyrocket. Exactly. So it's like, it's like a catch-22, at that point.
What's your opinion on the Whatbot system? So they obviously have the monthly system where you pay a month and you can't resell the bot. Do you feel like that truly incentivizes people to run more?
I don't know if it does. I like his like invite system, but I don't know if it really, because like obviously and I mean, he knows this too. He's not dumb, you know.
Yeah.
He knows people like are selling behind his back.
Of course,
I do too, obviously. But it's like, I don't know. I think it's not really helping in any aspect, you know.
Sure. Okay, that's fair. So we've got some questions about Nebula now. Before we move on to that, has anyone got anything else to add about the last part? Okay, I think we're good. So this is probably a good point to ask about Nebula and find out a bit more about your work as well. So what are some of the biggest challenges you've run into while working on Nebula, and what are the most enjoyable parts so far?
I'd say, that's the essence of programming, is finding ways to overcome challenges. So everything that I'm doing in every aspect is a challenge. But I'd say, you know, figuring out antibots for certain sites is definitely the biggest challenge to overcome. But
yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
I was going to say, what do you feel like your time prioritization is with the different modules in your bot?
I'd say, well, yeah. I mean, right now we only have, you know, Shopify, Untitled, and Supreme, and a few others coming soon. But I'd say probably 90% of my time is spent on Shopify, and the remaining 10%. I mean, we just added Easy Supply, so it's still pretty new, even though it's had quite a bit of success.
I've heard. Yep.
Yeah, I'd say the remaining 10% has been spent on Supreme and Easy Supply.
Sure. Okay. Cool. And so you mentioned you're going to add some new site types. I'm assuming you can't delve into what those might be.
Not yet.
No.
Not yet.
Cool. Do you have an ETA on when those might be added?
I want to say earliest. Ooh, it's the 4:30. I want to say probably two weeks max.
Okay.
I don't want to give an earliest.
No, that's fair.
Ooh.
Setting expectations.
Go.
Buy up quick. I want to go buy a few copies before I put this video up before the price skyrockets.
No, you can't buy stuff.
Yeah.
That's what they want you to think.
That'd be great. Saeed buys a bunch of keys and they all
Yeah.
Oh man! For the record, I'm not going to do that. I'm not actually going to do that. I'm a good person.
No. Kind of part being that question, like, what are the most enjoyable parts? I feel like the satisfaction coming from like finding a bypass or figuring out an antibot is so satisfying and so enjoyable.
Yep.
And
then seeing it in action, right? Actually, people actually
and then seeing the success come from that is definitely like a huge thing.
Sure.
Do you ever have your users like figure out something running the bot that you hadn't seen, and you're like, oh, you know what, that's pretty cool, they did it that way? Like anything odd?
It hasn't happened. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of an instance. I'll say no. I mean, I have found some like good data from just like task logs that I've collected, but there hasn't been like a
not like
certain
one thing that stands out.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of one, but I can't really think of one, honestly.
But that's good that the user data actually helps, right?
Yeah, it's super helpful, especially on like like the Supreme season when they rolled out Ticket. Like, you know, obviously no one had a solution for it right away, and it's super nice to have like all that extra task data to like sift through like what's working for people and what's not working for people. So
nice. And are you the sole dev working on Nebula? Excuse my ignorance. I feel like I should know this answer to this question.
I just hired another dev.
Okay.
Maybe you should have invited him to this. I don't know, but
we should have done.
Next one.
You gotta watch this until left out.
But yeah, he's
part 2.
I don't know. Maybe you guys knew Sybil.
What's his Twitter?
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'll pull it
I
up.
know that.
You know, okay, yeah, he was a dev for that, and we talked quite a bit. So one day we just kind of we're just like, hey, do you want to join Nebula? And he was like, yeah. All right. Obviously, yeah, Sybil wasn't like a public bot; it was still in beta, so the transition was super smooth.
Awesome. And do you find yourself working on the same modules, or do you like split tasks, or how do you sort of isolate tasks between yourselves?
So we kind of prioritize. Like right now, we're working on a few different anti-bots to kind of prioritize those in the background. So he's tackling mostly like back-end stuff, and I don't know, I guess acting as like project manager, where I fix front-end stuff as it comes up, and also interface with customers and users that.
So basically, you give him all the hard work to do. Yeah.
What was that?
So basically, you've given him all the hard work to do.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Man's just laid the whole back end on his code dev, and he's nah, fair play. It's good. I think it's good to do that. Honestly, I mean, I see Balco's just doing it solo all the time, and you know, fair play to him. But I think it's good. It's definitely good. I think there's so much stress involved with covering, especially now you've got 3 modules. You know, it's a lot to get on with, and if you do want to live a fairly reasonable lifestyle outside of the sneaker scene. I think it's a very reasonable thing to do to split the workload. Optimizing monitor usage. We've done that. Input on Shopify botting. If the majority of sites add questions, we sort of covered that. Is there anything else we can add to that? I'm not sure.
Honestly, maybe like a little bit of Matt, like how he got started, because people are always interested in that.
That's interesting.
Like that's always awesome.
I was about to ask, like, where'd you go to, like?
No, you weren't.
Oh, you taught me.
Stop acting smart, Fitz.
Yeah, so I grew up in Iowa, actually, and the sneaker scene honestly wasn't like a huge. I mean, it still is not that big there. I mean, it's definitely grown since I've left, but I graduated from Iowa State, so I went there, got my bachelor's in software engineering. During my senior year of college, I don't know. I'm trying to like remember. I'm trying to like pinpoint exactly when I got like into botting in general, but I don't know. I can't really pinpoint that. But basically, I sat down with a design friend of mine. She lives in DC now, but I like kind of like introduced the idea, like, hey, I want to try to like make this automation software. She's like, okay, well, I can like, you know, do your UI designs. And we kind of like sat down one day and like started hashing stuff out. And I think that was like around May in 2018, or maybe a little bit before that.
Okay. That's quite a while back then.
Yeah. So my like the first iteration of Nebula Orion was like super, I don't know. Yeah, it was like super small scale. Didn't like, I had an open beta period at one point that like I pretty much just allowed everyone to use it, which, you know, showed some good success back in the day. But then I kind of went private and kind of kept it small ever since, and then and then rebranded it with the help of Image Crate and redid like the entire bot literally from the scratch. Now it is what it is, which is awesome. I mean,
I mean, you've obviously made a huge amount of progress since that time in 2018 where you just started it up. What got you into software development from the start then?
That is a good question. I used to write like small macro scripts for RuneScape back in the day. I don't know if you guys have you ever played it, but I played that game when I was younger and was super intrigued by like people using like automation software to like automate tasks on it, and that kind of like sprung that passion and interest in like just automation tools in general, I guess. And then I don't know, like I said, in college at some point I gained an interest in sneakers, so I kind of just merged the two interests of mine.
Nice. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Interesting. So how old were you then when you first wrote your macro script?
Shoot. Probably, I want to say like probably 12 or 13, maybe younger.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I could probably look back somehow and find out, but I don't know.
It's quite crazy how it stemmed from one little thing and turned into obviously where you are now, which is quite impressive.
It's pretty interesting.
Awesome. Yeah, agrees. Cool. Anyone else got any questions for Matt before we move on?
Where did you like learn how to reverse engineer stuff like bot protection scripts and all that? Because for me, like a dummy who codes sometimes, like that's so hard to just wrap my head around how to do that, how to reverse engineer.
Yeah. Admittedly, I'm not that great at it. And I think a lot of people who are great at it will say the same thing. But I mean, honestly, I'm not that great at it. But it all really just comes from like trial and error. I don't know, like Google common reverse engineering tricks and tips and like go from there, honestly, because and it's not easy. Like you will spend many days on like the same code chunk and be like, okay, well, I've made no progress on this, but then like the next day you'll make insane progress out of nowhere. And that's just kind of how it is with, at least that's how it is for me. When it comes to like reverse engineering anti-bots and stuff like that, is like, okay, I have to sit down and I have to like dissect, I don't know, 100 some functions. Can I reduce the amount of functions? Can I consolidate? Can I, I mean, you know what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Can you reduce the complexity of the code in any way, shape, or form? And if,
I've done it once with some like with a payment processor, which is obviously not hard at all. And then I looked at Akamai once and I was like, yeah, no, this isn't happening.
For Akamai, it's not really, you don't really have to, I mean, you do have to reverse it, but you don't really have to. I mean, there are many ways to tackle, coming up with like a gen for a sensor API or a cookie API, however you're structuring it. But I mean, seriously, with that, it's just trial and error. Like, look at one function at a time, like even copy and paste it into a new file, look at it like separately and see like, hey, what are the input parameters? What are the output parameters? What is it doing? Can I rename it? Can I consolidate it into something else?
Okay.
That's how I would go about it. So.
All right. Yeah, that would just break a big problem into a bunch of smaller problems, basically.
Right. Yep.
All right. Cool. All right. So let's move on to really interesting question, actually. So, which is good for a lot of beginners. I know. Save the best till last. So, how to scale a botting operation with low capital. So, where do you start? What bots should you be looking at? I guess it kind of depends on what region you're in. But if you're there's two ways you can interpret this question. Is it how to scale a botting operation for the purpose of purchasing shoes and then growing that botting operation? Or is it buying a bot to flip and then just flipping it until you get a better bot?
I'm thinking it's the first.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. So where do you start? I mean,
we all know there's only one place to start, and that is putting A and B.
You're not wrong.
If I had some little jabroni that just came off the street and said, "Teach me how to bot," I would say, "Come here, little boy or girl. Purchase A and B. It's always available. The price never goes past whatever it is, and you will cop."
Yeah. Footsites, A and B, there you go. I mean, Footsites is literally like the perfect site for any beginner as well, right? It's just a plug and play kind of thing. NSB as well. NSB is probably quite good. $500. You can get some discounts sometimes. That works. Those are the only two real options under 1K, I think. I think if you're starting now, it's just got to be one of them two. If you're an EU person, then you have other options, but you'll literally be looking to buy a bot which will work on one site. That's the kind of level you'll be looking at on EU. But if you can make that work, then fair play.
What would you buy for EU? Like, what's readily available?
Nothing's readily available, sadly. But I mean, you've got NSB, which it has moments where it works on a certain site. Like it'll work on like BSTN, for example. But even then, like I don't remember the last time it properly taken stock on an EU site. Honestly, if I was starting on an EU bot if I was in EU right now and I was starting, I would probably just focus on just saving and get Ganesh, or literally, I mean, I just don't know what to do.
That's like what, $5,000, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, unless you're selling your body on the street, that's not like something you're going to come up on really quickly.
You're right. It sounds really stupid, but honestly, like if you want a bot which will work on more than one site and it will actually like be quite competitive and like it's going to be quite stable in price, like Ganesh is a really good option. I understand not everyone's in that situation, and so I'll also give other options as well. So I mean, look,
it has to be under $1,000.
Wow.
Euros.
Okay.
Pounds.
We're really getting limited right now. If we say let's do £1,000. Orange.
I think a good option would be buying a Supreme bot and just building your capital up through Supreme, and then for shoes, taking advantage of slots and whatever, and then just building your capital up like that. Yeah, that's how I started off and worked out well for me.
Yeah, that's actually a really good option. I think slots can be quite good. It's quite difficult finding someone who does do EU slots, but certainly for like Footlocker EU, that's something that's easily possible, and even Mesh as well. Obviously quite hard to find someone to run you Mesh because they need the DCs and stuff for it, but yeah, I mean, they're definitely good options. Other than
he's right, you could pick up F3 for what, under $500.
Yeah,
really
hit
cheap.
Supreme, hit a couple of Supremes and quick flip.
Exactly. So you've got F3, you've got MEK and Velox. Velox has been amazing for Supreme last season. I highly recommend. I don't even know how much it goes for now. I assume it's
like almost $900, like
wow, okay. Quite expensive, but it probably warranted, to be honest, with its performance from last season. Matt's AirPods are about to die, so let's just wrap this up ASAP before it gets really awkward later on. Optimizing Monty, so if you've done that. How to scale botting, done that. Do you think botting's dying? It's getting harder. I don't think as long as sites keep dropping first come first serves, bots will always be relevant. If sites keep restocking online, bots will still be relevant. That's just how it's going to be. If raffles exist, there will be raffle bots. There's going to be a bot for everything with the current state of things. People are always looking for new things to do. If a site is untouched, a dev will go and touch it, which sounds really creepy, but you know what I mean. It was.
That's one hell of a way to end the podcast.
I really shouldn't have said it like that.
Good night.
You know exactly what I mean, though. It's that sort of thing. Like Shoe Palace, like people slept on Shoe Palace for ages, and suddenly you got all these bots sorting it out, and then end the same. EU sites. People are building custom bots to like bot a site in the EU, which drops like 20 stock every 4 months. Like that's the state of the time we're in. So botting will always be there. Will it be? It's just going to get more competitive over time. Agreed. But if you can get yourself in a position to give you an advantage, then that's the best you can sort of do. Sorry, Matt, I cut you out there.
No, you're good. I was just agreeing.
Cool.
It's definitely going to get more competitive, but it's always going to be, it's always going to be here. It's always going to be prevalent.
Yeah. I think there's just too many big players in the scene right now for it to just die. I think there's just going to be so much investment involved in the bot scene that it will. It's just. I think it's here to stay. I think if it was going to die, I think we would have seen a decline in the number of bots. But to be honest, and especially because the way as many sites there are, they're all pretty much bot protected at this point. If bots were going to die, they would have died when Shopify bots would have died when heavy bot protection came in. Foot sites bots would have died when all like the PV and the Akamai and all that stuff got in, and the PX and stuff got involved. The EU sites would have died when they all started adding bot protection and stuff. But more bots just keep popping up, and more users keep buying them. So I think there's just going to continuously be a demand for it.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between it dying and like it changing. Like bots are always going to be adapting to the changes.
Yeah.
Like Shopify might change something that causes bots to stop working for the month of August, let's say, and next month they might have it figured out. But it's just like an endless cycle of like these Fortune 500 companies combating what we're doing, and us figuring out what they're doing. So
it's actually quite crazy when you put it like that. That's literally like how it is. That's not even exaggerated. That's literally how it is. It's kind of mad. Are any of you competitive, and do you think your setup is better than your competitors? I mean, to be honest, there within each bot there is internal competition, because not everyone who owns a bot key can get a pair of shoes or whatever, which is unfortunate, but like it has to be the case, because not everyone can be a winner in this scene. There has to be losers to be winners. That's just how the game of reselling works. Getting your setup on point is the most effective way that you can really excel in this community. If your setup, if you cheap out on proxies, or if you get some poor quality Gmails, or if you haven't read up on site changes from last week and you're going into a drop blind, you are putting yourself at a disadvantage that will probably cost you a pair of shoes, or cost you, or change a W into an L. It's that simple, because there's so many people in the scene now who are doing all those things, and you need to also be at that level too. There is an investment element in terms of time, but more importantly in terms of money. But if you really want to make the most out of this, you do need to invest. And when you think about the money being invested, you need to think about, do I spend $40 on a 25 pack of DCs, which probably won't work, or do I spend $55 on a pack of DCs, which are very likely to work? And if you actually compare it like that, then that saving $15 just seems to be an actual steal for that price at 55. I mean, I understand things are expensive and it's not that simple in all these scenarios, but honestly, you do need to think about the way you invest your funds, because often saving money in one aspect is costing you in another. But yeah, I mean, I think we're how to buy shoes without spending money, dude. I don't know what shoes you're planning to buy. Like, go to a charity shop or some shit. I don't know, man. And then, maybe talk about dunk hype and how to get them. Impossible to get dunks if you don't have connections. I mean, look, skate shops are all like really small shops. They basically backdoor everything. Enter raffles. It's just hard. Dunks are just Nike have limited dunks. They know it's the year of the dunk. They're dropping a lot of dunks and they're really limiting them. I get the feeling they're just trying to expand their SB range more into the whole sneaker community, because I feel like Blazers and stuff really haven't been that hot recently. So I think they're trying to reintroduce the whole aspect of their SB line back into the sneaker scene. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's a good question. But unfortunately, a lot of the time there is not much you can do. I mean, a lot of the Shopify, foot sites obviously don't get them. High stock sites don't get them. They are genuinely just very low stock items. So yeah, it's just tough, basically.
Yeah, and I can attest to that too. It's like there's like one skate shop back home, referencing to Iowa, that they only release in store, and so I mean, unless you're living around, in a major city that has like a ton of skate shops that you could maybe hit the loop and maybe secure a couple pairs, like it's pretty much impossible. Like there's not really, I mean, there are raffles, but it's not. We already discussed the raffle thought. Predicament.
Agreed.
So.
Yeah, exactly. It's tough. It's tough for dunks. I think these are some things that if you do get dunks, then you should just be grateful that you got lucky, and that's basically all you can really be. The sites that do drop on first come first serve are just horrendous, like CCS and stuff. Like it's just disgusting. So yeah, don't focus. I feel like people really focus on like these really like massive flip drops, like when like the 10 drops and stuff, like people really like hyped up for like off-white drops and stuff like that, but like they're important, don't get me wrong, like it's great if you can hit, but honestly if you can hit like 5-10 pairs a release on like a Jordan drop or like a Yeezy drop, then you're doing great. That's what you need to carry on doing. That's what people should be focusing on at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I make way more money at the moment on more low-key items.
Yeah. I mean, you do mids and stuff, so don't you?
Like, small profit, like 20 to 25 profit per, but you get 30 to 40 of them.
Yeah.
Adds up way better than spending way more time, way more money for only a few pairs.
Exactly, and you are getting, and considering you're investing, in proxies and stuff, then you do want to be hitting as many pairs as you can. There's nothing more disappointing knowing that you've spent like $100 on proxies, $30 on a server or whatever for a weekend, only to hit 0 pairs. But if you can get a return on that investment, even if they're not high value items individually, as Orange said, if you're getting more than 20-30 pairs of an item that flipped for 25 quid per pair, like profit, that's really, really good. Definitely something worth focusing on. But I think that's pretty much it from the topics, at least we've got, unless anyone has anything else to add at this point.
Not for me.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Sweet. Anyway, so thank you so much for you guys for joining as always, and huge thank you to Matt for taking some time out to join us on the podcast. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you did too.
Yeah, seriously, thank you guys for having me.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Matt. And the next episode will be coming out in about a week or two.